Does Bayonetta Origins, Cereza in the Lost Demon, meet the expectations we had for it before its full launch? Stick around this post-release video to see if this game is for you. If you want to see what expectations we had based on the demo, we'll link the video down in the description or put it up on screen. Bayonetta Origins is a prequel that focuses on a young witch in training, Cereza. Unlike the Bayonetta with the confident strut that we all know and love, Cereza is just a timid, clumsy girl learning the basics of umbral witchcraft from her stern mentor Morgana. Young Cereza is determined to learn the ways of the Umbral Witches to save her mother who was imprisoned for having a child with a Lunan sage. One day Cereza has a strange dream where a figure in white appears in front of her and tells her that a power that will allow her to save her mother lies in the Avalon Forest, and that a white wolf will guide the way. After a botched demon summoning, she receives a stern lecture from her mentor, leaving her down. Frustrated with her mentor, she remembers the dream she had. So despite her teacher's repeated warnings, she ventures out by herself to seek out the supposed power that lies in the Avalon Forest. But Cereza soon runs into the forest denizens, the fairies, who aren't exactly the most friendly bunch. In order to defend herself, she tries summoning a demon again, but ends up calling forth a demon that possesses her beloved stuffed cat Cheshire. Furthermore, she lacks the power to send him home. So she ends up promising the demon that she'll acquire the power to do so within the forest. And so, we follow the story of Cereza and Cheshire as they venture deeper into the forest. Bayonetta Origins tells a story of resolve, growth,
No more running away! I am going to be a witch! I need to be strong!
friendship, and kindness. Wait, that sounds a bit too kiddie for Bayonetta, you may ask. Don't worry. While the story very much plays out like a storybook, it's more Grimm's fairy tales than it is Disney. While a lot more lighthearted than mainline Bayonetta, behind the innocent facade lies a familiar darkness of children getting lost and dying in the forest.
Children who perish in Avalon become wisps, their souls cursed to wander the forest forever.
Young witches getting devoured by ferocious forest beasts, mentions of souls of the damned that wander Inferno, and more. We posted this question on our pre-release video. Will she take one step on the path to becoming the strong icon that we know and love? While we won't spoil anything too much, we can say that Bayonetta Origins gives us a simple yet enjoyable story that lets us see Cereza take that first step.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars.
The gameplay is very different from the hack and slash combat that we're used to in Bayonetta. This time we're given a more action-adventure type of gameplay. Bayonetta Origins has its own fair share of action and fighting. However, it's also mixed in with puzzle elements and exploration. Think Legend of Zelda in the style of Link's Awakening. In this game, you control both Cereza and Cheshire to make your way across the levels. You control Cereza's movements with the left analog stick, and Cheshire with the right. It does take a bit of dexterity and multitasking prowess to control both at the same time. The gameplay can be divided into 3 parts: Cereza, Cheshire, and Cereza carrying Cheshire. In the Cereza gameplay sections, you control Cereza, who can use her magic to manipulate her surroundings, find items, and bind enemies. When manipulating the environment to progress, you'll be made to aim at various objects and will be greeted with a mini rhythm game where you have to match the beat to successfully cast a spell to move forward or uncover items. During combat, Cereza can bind enemies to let Cheshire do his thing. Speaking of Cheshire's thing, the demon's gameplay on the other hand is more offensive focused. Cheshire can mow down through enemies and environmental obstructions with his massive claws. However, there are places where Cheshire can't cross. Rosemary, which is used to ward off evil spirits, keeps Cheshire away, and during these times you'll have to find some other way to progress. The last mode is Cereza carrying Cheshire. In this mode, you can toss him to places you usually can't reach, and also use him as some kind of extendo claw that lets you slingshot across gaps. The main focus of gameplay is figuring out how to harmoniously use Cereza's magic and Cheshire's brute strength to get through enemies and environments alike. The game gives you these areas called Tir na Nogs that tests how well you can execute the gameplay. You can view it as kind of like a Breath of the Wild shrine. Tir na Nogs gives you puzzle challenges as well as those for combat. And like the shrines, you get a reward in the end in the form of vitality petals which pretty much act like heart pieces. Collect 5 of them and your max HP increases. However, these tier analog segments do get old once you've seen enough of them. They lack the complexity that really activates your neurons in a way that a Breath of the Wild shrine would. In the pre-release video, we wanted to see more options for items outside those for healing, as well as maybe power-ups for both Cereza and Cheshire. And guess what we got? Exactly that! We've got multiple potions now used for support, like making Cereza invulnerable for a short period of time, knocking back enemies, and also giving Cheshire unleashed skills for a short time as well. There are also power-ups now that you can get in sanctuaries after you've unlocked them later in the game. They range from adding to your repertoire of offensive skills, to more support abilities like increasing the rate of magic recovery. There are also skills that you get as you progress the game that unlock more of the map to explore. This also encourages players to go back to once explored areas, and give them a second look to see if there are any new paths or items that can be found with the new abilities. There are a variety of enemies, and some of them have gimmicks that you need to deal with using the various skills you acquire as you progress through the forest. It switches up combat just enough so that you're not just button matching, but also isn't interesting enough to merit special mention. It's okay. Without spoiling anything, we also want to tease a little gameplay element that's only available near the end of the game. It signals the growth in Cereza as a witch, and is also a fun callback forward to mainline Bayonetta gameplay, and fans of the main series would love it. We won't say anything, other than you'll find out about it in due time.
Come on, let's dance!
To a Bayonetta fan, this may not look like a Bayonetta game at all, but that's not a bad thing. The new aesthetic pairs well with the idea of telling the story of a young Bayonetta. The art style goes with a fairy tale, cartoony, and picture book feel, as opposed to the mainline Bayonetta's flashy, edgy, and ooh la la graphics. There are a lot of very beautiful environments to appreciate throughout the game, from Morgana's home and garden to the lush forests, beautiful waterscapes, and magical fairy illusions. The music is quite calm and fits the fantasy vibe that the visuals try to create. Again, a stark contrast to the flamboyant and bombastic feel of the mainline games. However, there are some boss fight pieces that also turn up the hype, with some electrifying and exhilarating energy that will keep you at the edge of your seat, ready to take on that big baddie. The voice acting of this game really brings out the storybook experience, with the narrator telling Cereza's story. It's told in a very calming manner, reminiscent of a parental figure telling their child a bedtime story.
Cereza was secretly happy to see Cheshire.
Special mention to the narrator's Cheshire voice. Chef's kiss.
Something happens to you, and it's my neck too.
Angeli Wall's portrayal of Cereza also deserves a chef's kiss, without convincing her voice cracks, chuckles, and squeals actually sound. You can really feel that Cereza is a timid and anxious girl from her performance.
Cheshire's attacks didn't make so much as a dent in that monster's armor. Oh, what am I going to do?
Bayonetta Origins is a relaxing and enjoyable game to play. Well, if you turn off your brain and not look too deeply into the fact that a lot of kids and witches were lured into the forest to die sad and lonely deaths. It tells an interesting tale of a Bayonetta who is yet to grow into the high-heeled, gun-equipped, ready to step on you, yes please mommy, shoes of Bayonetta. While the music and art are amazing, the gameplay is sadly quite mid. The gameplay is okay, but compared to the music and art, there was obviously more attention given to the latter. It feels like the gameplay exists to lead you through the world so that you could experience the story, music, and visuals. And that's fine if that's what you want. But players who are fans of mainline Bayonetta may find that it's not what they look for in a Bayonetta game. It's definitely not as packed with engaging combat as the mainline games. The tone of Origins may also be too far removed from the usual fare when compared to the mainline series. So unless you're really invested in the Bayonetta story or series as a whole as opposed to just being a fan of the gameplay, you might want to skip on this one. Another reason why you might want to skip on this game is a more practical one: the price. For a spin-off game that's fairly short and fairly average gameplay, We were a little floored to find out that it cost $60. Don't get us wrong, as every other aspect of the game is beautifully made, but it's up to you to decide if the story, music, and art outweigh your buying decision making compared to the actual gameplay. Overall, we retain our projected score of 8 for Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. It's a good game that's being held down because of average gameplay and not so good value for money. But hey, we enjoyed it, and if you're a big fan of the Bayonetta series, you probably would too. Thanks for tuning into this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more video game content. Again, this is Game Bait Information Station, signing off.